What's going on, everybody? We're back with another episode of The Bird's Nest, and again, after an Eagles loss. The Birds fall 23-17 to the Seahawks last night, Monday Night Football at the Link. We saw Carson Wentz, 25 of 45, 215 yards, two touchdowns, and an interception. There was not a lot of Jalen Hurts as speculated. We were assuming we would see a bigger role from Jalen Hurts going into the game. Max, let's get right into it. Rip the Band-Aid right off. The Birds, they fall, as I mentioned, 23-17, but the game wasn't as close as the final score shows. Carson Wentz throws that Hail Mary touchdown with garbage time left in. And the Birds they looked kind of impressive maybe in the first quarter, especially of the game. But then you see Jalen Hurts later in the game. He comes in, throws that pass to Alshon Jeffrey, gives him his first catch of the season, and then Carson Wentz is back in. Do you agree with that decision made? For me, it was random because I expected Jalen Hurts to at least have a full drive, given the hype leading up. But what do you think about that?
Yeah, I thought going into the game, Doug Peterson talked about earlier in the week having Jalen Hurts more incorporated in the offense. He was getting more first team reps in practice. And then he goes out there and has, two, three snaps. One got called back by a penalty. That throw looked good for the one play he was out there, but the other one was a handoff to Miles Sanders. So I definitely was surprised he wasn't out there more. But at the end of the day, I think if you throw Jalen Hurts out there for a drive, I'm fine with it, especially later in the game when the game was out of hand. Um, and again, you just have to do something to spark this offense. So I would like to see Hurts out there on the field more than what he was, especially because how badly the offense was struggling. And look, Carson Wentz didn't have a great game at all. Again, another poor effort on his part. Like you mentioned, the efficiency wasn't good. Another bad interception in the red zone on a fourth down pass to Dallas Goedert that wasn't even close. So if you ask me, Wentz, I guess you give him the start next week, but eventually, once you get out of the chase for this division title, you have to give Jalen Hurts a shot and just see what you have going into the offseason.
Yeah, I completely agree. It is now time to bench Carson Wentz. Give Jalen Hurts a chance, but then again, you look at the schedule going forward. You got the Packers, then the Saints, and then the Cardinals, and of course we finish it off with the NFC East. But do you think it would be in the Eagles' best decision to finish the season off with Wentz? Or do you think we put Hurts in there, see what he can do, and move forward from there? And because if Jalen Hurts really stinks it up on the field, then we go ahead into next season still with the same problem. We're not really sure if we have a franchise quarterback. And then we have a guy we drafted with our second round pick over there sitting on the bench. We're paying Nate Sudfeld money to sit there, and it's just another problem. What do you think? Is this for sure Jalen Hurts gets the job, or it depends how Carson Wentz plays?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. I think it depends on how Carson plays and also where the season goes from here. Because with the Washington football team, with the Giants and Dallas is pretty much out of it now. We still are somehow in the hunt for this division. So unless we get really battered and beaten and go on a crazy losing streak, and I guess maybe there's 2-3 games left and you want to put Hurts in to start completely for the rest of the season, that's fine. But I just don't think that Doug or the front office will pull the trigger on benching Carson Wentz, especially if we're still chasing this division title. Now, the defense has held up their end of the bargain, especially against Seattle. Overall, the defensive line played well. We saw a couple great plays from Derek Barnett. So the defense isn't really the issue. At least it wasn't against the Seahawks for this past week. But yeah, from the Wentz Hurts standpoint, it's a real headache because at the end of the day, if Hurts comes in and he doesn't play well either, then you have even more of a mess because Carson Wentz as a quarterback looks broken right now. He needs to be fixed, and it's not going to be just a week of practice to get him fixed. It's going to have to be in this off season to try to work on his mechanics, work on his decision making. I know the offensive line's banged up, so he doesn't have a lot of time to throw it away, but he's missed some real wide open receivers over the past few weeks. And again, you saw it against Seattle. Travis Fulgham a few times, got separation. I saw one play from Alshon Jeffrey who was wide open. And I don't know if he's just not seeing the open receivers or he just doesn't have enough time to throw it. It could be a little bit of both.
Yeah, just to break down this team offensively, Sanders, I believe 6 rushes, 15 yards. Boston Scott, 2 rushes, 7 yards. And then you got the leading receiver was Dallas Goddard. Of course, he's been impressing us with Ertz out. 7 catches, 75 yards, 1 touchdown. Rogers, again, another tight end, 3 catches, 53 yards, touchdown. And then Boston Scott was even he was there in the receiving game, 5 catches and 40 yards. Now, with the way that these tight ends are playing, it definitely makes us feel more confident going into the offseason with the likely chance that Ertz will not come back for next season. That's going to be an emotional decision. If Howie Roseman is still playing part in picking who's on this team and who's not, it's going to be it could go either way at this point. But to the defense, you were talking about how they've played against the Seahawks team, and I was impressed. Early on, they stopped this. They held this team to a 3rd and long, but a Darius Slay penalty gives them another chance. I mentioned this the Darius Slay play where he was trying to be the bigger man against DK Metcalf, 6'4", 230-pound individuals, never going to work for you. And then for the rest of the game now, you're worried, could he get another – could this get more heated and Darius Slay could get thrown out because he already had that one flagrant. But then they stopped them on 4th and goal at our own 2, which was a huge stop. I believe that was Derek Barnett had both these
Yeah.
stops. This next one that I mentioned, that he stops the Seahawks on the Eagles 38, again, on 4th down. So this defense was doing its job early in this game. And you take down the top scoring offense. That leaves the Eagles offense to do what they need to do, and that's score. But we didn't see a lot of that from Carson Wentz and the offense. I mentioned them throwing Jalen Hurts in. It seems like the offense automatically had more energy. You throw that ball, Alshon Jeffrey gets his first catch of the season, and then randomly put Carson Wentz back in. He gets sacked right away, and then there it goes. The energy is deflated. Not to mention, on special teams, Jake Elliott has not been impressive this season personally for me. He misses that extra point. That takes also another way to take the energy out of the team after scoring. So there's a few things that seem to be playing against the Eagles within the Eagles themselves, playing against themselves. I mentioned in the last show, it seems like it's the defense versus the offense, Eagles-wise defense versus offense. But where does this team go from here, Max? We see they fall to the Seahawks. This was a game we were expecting more Jalen Hurts. Seemed like it could have been Carson Wentz's last time starting for the Eagles. But now, where do you go from here?
The offense has issues upon issues. So there's going to be a long process of figuring out what to do on the offensive side of the football, whether it be run the football more, which we've been banging the table for. Again, Miles Sanders gets 6 carries only. They only run the ball 14 times yesterday. To open the game, they have 5 straight 3-and-outs. They can't get off the fast starts. So the defense has been a positive, I guess you can say. I mean, there's definitely been their flaws as well there. Darius Slay giving up a lot of catches last night, but he held his own. You're talking about the leading receiver as far as receiving yards go in the league, I should say. And he held his own for the most part. I know you gave up 177 yards at DK Metcalf, but everybody else in the league does that as well. So from here, the defense just has to keep playing well. I know we were talking about how bad a linebacking core was, but TJ Edwards and Alex Singleton have played really well as the season has gone on. You have Derek Barnett making some plays last night. He looks like he can be trending in the right direction. And then you have, Darius Slay on one side of the defensive side of the football as far as the cornerbacks go. But on the other side, you have to figure out that. Avonte Maddox is not a good football player. I think we both can agree to that. We need to get a new corner on the other side of Darius Slay. But again, it's all going to come down to the offense. Can we put up points? You hold the Seattle Seahawks to 20 points into the fourth quarter. but you only have 9 against the least or the worst, I should say, worst defense in football, ranked 32nd across the board in almost every category. So that's a cause for concern. I mean, that's why we both are sitting here and saying, does Jalen Hurts deserve more playing time? He probably does. And then it remains to be seen. Look, it doesn't get any easier next week. We have to go to Green Bay, and we have to play Devontae Adams, who is DK Metcalf 2.0. I mean, pick your poison.
Yeah, that's right. And it's going to be a hard game for me to watch because I have Devontae Adams on my fantasy team. You hate rooting against your fantasy team player towards fantasy playoffs, but you still got to root for the Eagles. And I want to go back to Darius Slay. I think we may be giving him a little more credit than he deserved, considering he did trip up on that possible touchdown to DK Metcalf. That was just luck. On our side, that play, it went right to DK Metcalf's hands. He couldn't hold on to it. And he had a career day against the Birds, 10 catches, 177 yards. He didn't get a touchdown, which is good. It would have been totally different if this was last year. Without Darius Slay, we saw it before. DK Metcalf destroyed us in that playoff game, especially. But yeah, you mentioned this Green Bay Packers game. Going to Lambeau Field, I was there last year, and I know the energy that the fans bring to this stadium. That I know it's not gonna be the same, obviously, due to COVID concerns. So that may play maybe a little bit of a part. I doubt it because this Eagles team is not good. Not we didn't think the Eagles team was good last year when they went to Lambeau and beat, but this is an even worse Eagles team. You see, the Packers are coming off of that big win against the Bears. Rodgers, 21 of 29, 211 yards and 4 passing touchdowns. You go to Devontae Adams, 6 catches, 61 yards, and a touchdown. He was held up a little bit. And then their rushing game is dangerous too. Williams and Jones, both 17 carries. Jones, 90 yards. He got no touchdowns. But then you go to Williams, 73 yards and 1 touchdown. This team can do it all over the place. What can this Eagles team do to? I know that I can't say what can this Eagles team do to win because you're not over there working on an NFL team. It's impossible for us to say what this Eagles team can do to beat the Packers at Lambeau. But what can they do to stop the bleeding?
Yeah, I would expect a pretty similar game as the one we just saw this past week. You have Devontae Adams, who can compare to DK Metcalf. You have Aaron Rodgers, who can compare to Russell Wilson. You have a good rushing attack with Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams, like you mentioned, and they can relate to Chris Carson. So they're going to put up points. We know that our defense just has to hold their own and maybe hold them around 20, 24 points. The question is, going to be on the other side of the ball. Are we going to be able to score points? Now, we weren't able to against the worst defense in football. So are we going to be able to against, Preston Smith and that defensive line on the road? That's going to be the biggest question. And I just don't see how either of us can agree that this team's going to put up a lot of points considering what we've seen over the past few weeks and, quite frankly, the whole season.
Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting game to see what the Eagles do at quarterback. Maybe second half we see Jalen Hurts come in if this game is just completely out of the realm of even coming close for the Eagles. But that's going to wrap up our show this week, guys. We're still going to come back to you after every Eagles win and probably most likely every Eagles loss for the rest of this season. That does it. Thank you guys for tuning in.